Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle Poyar. I'm from OpenView, and I'm here to talk about pricing in a product-led world. At the Product-Led Summit, there's lots of topics around acquisition, conversion strategies, product strategies, but you probably aren't hearing a whole lot about pricing, so really excited to share some insights with you. And let's get into it. By way of background, I'm with OpenView, and at OpenView, I help software companies grow faster through packaging and pricing strategy. And you can see here a few different examples of my work if you want to learn more. On the far left is the State of SaaS Pricing infographic. We've surveyed over 1,000 SaaS leaders about how they approach pricing and shared all the insights about that with you. And then in the middle is the Ultimate SaaS Pricing Resources Guide. We're continuously updating this with all the greatest hits when it comes to SaaS pricing. And the right is the Mastering SaaS Pricing ebook, which you can download on OpenView Labs for free. And pricing is really your most powerful lever for growth and profitability. There's lots of different studies on this that look at the impact of different levers on EBITDA. What if you increase prices? What if you reduce your costs? What if you reduce sales and marketing efforts? And pricing has by far the greatest impact. But it's a blind spot for most companies, right? And hopefully you'll agree with me, or actually hopefully you won't agree with me because you've really invested in pricing. But at most companies, really no one owns pricing in the company, even as a piece of their job responsibilities. And in our benchmarking study, we found 55% said no one in the company owns pricing. At 36% of companies, pricing is just a piece of someone's responsibility. And then only 9% of companies actually had dedicated resources for pricing. And so if it's your most important, most powerful profit lever, how is no one paying attention to it? And this is just SaaS companies in general. But I think in a product-led world, pricing is even more important, right? You can't just rely on your sales team to communicate value or to discount your pricing when it's appropriate to win a deal. Your product and your website are the main way that you're communicating value. And if your pricing is confusing or it's not value-based, you're really going to slow down that acquisition funnel. I want to share an example with you. You look at this pricing page. Does this seem clear? Does this make you want to buy something? Or does this create friction in the sales process? Right? I think this is a pretty bad example. This is actually Spectrum. They're a cable operator. And this is, believe it or not, this is their simple page. If you actually click to see offer details to see what you're actually buying, this is what it looks like. Not very friendly. And they can get away with this because they're not a product-led company. And Spectrum, as a cable operator, cable operators have historically had regional monopolies over selling their services. In a product-led world, that's not the case. You probably have many competitors and you have short attention spans of your users. You want to focus their attention on understanding the value of your product and getting them into the product as quickly as possible. I think in a product-led world, pricing, as I mentioned, it's about getting users into the product without friction, and pricing can be a major friction point. And so you have two main routes of doing this with your pricing. One is looking at free or freemium product opportunities, whether that's free trials, classic freemium, or different free products that tie into your product. And another is enabling bottoms-up sales. So that's allowing a user to get started with your product at a lower price before catalyzing a larger enterprise-wide deal. And if you look at most product-led businesses, companies like Pluralsight or Dropbox or Evernote or Slack, they have some sort of free offering or low-cost offering to allow users to sign up with minimal friction. So let's get into this more specifically. And I'll start with freemium. And in our SaaS benchmarking survey from 2018, we asked companies about whether they've adopted different product-led growth strategies. And 47% said that they had adopted free trials, 29% had customer referral programs, 28% had product qualified leads. Actually, only 17% had a freemium model. And so freemium's not actually as popular as a lot of people think. And even when it's not adopted, it's not always impactful. So this is data from the Pacific Crest SaaS survey. And in their one of the recent surveys, they asked about how much of your new ACV comes from freemium leads. And 73% said no new ACV comes from freemium leads. Another 13% said actually less than 10% of new ACV is driven by this. And only 9% of companies said that freemium drives more than 25% of their new ACV. So that's, if you look at it this way, freemium is just one customer acquisition strategy to hopefully bring in users at a low cost, but it's really not the only route for a product-led business. And so we'll talk about when freemium works, but we'll actually also talk about other ways of using free products to get users into your product. So when does freemium actually work? I think this is really important to understand the signals that it's right for your business. And for me, most importantly, is that you have a massive market, right? And so if you think about the classic freemium economics, you need millions of free users to generate enough paying users to have a sustainable business. The rule of thumb is, a conversion rate from free to paid of in the single digits, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. So that means to get to, 100,000 paying customers, you'd actually need, 10 million potentially free users. So you'd really need a massive market. Freemium tends to be best for horizontal applications that appeal to a broad base of users. And then the product actually you want the product to become more valuable the more it's used, right? So people can't just use the free version and stay on it forever. You want there to be some sort of incentive for them to eventually migrate to the paid version. So Dropbox is a great example, right? Where the more and more files that you're saving and using with Dropbox, the more valuable Dropbox is, the more it's sort of this necessary product as opposed to a nice to have. I think Slack's another great example. You're inviting more people into the product, you're communicating more, you're setting up channels, you're maybe setting up integrations with other systems, and you really want to start keeping that data that you have on Slack. And so their message archive becomes a great trigger. Once people use up their messaging storage, they really have this motivation to upgrade because the product has become a lot more valuable than when they started out. Third is that you have to have enough product differentiation to make freemium a positive experience without giving away everything. So if freemium is too bad, then you won't actually get the user engagement and stickiness that will convert people into paid users. But if freemium is too good and you don't have enough additional value to offer the customer, then freemium will actually just be a distraction for the business. So you need to have enough product differentiation to have a good enough freemium version, but also a great opportunity for more value through features. And then finally, and this should be obvious, you should have a low cost to serve, right? So you shouldn't be a product that's burdened with tons and tons of customer support and getting users calling up constantly asking for help. You can't have freemium be a drain on your resources. And I think a great example within the OpenView portfolio is a company called Calendly. And Calendly is a scheduling tool that allows people to really easily schedule meetings with other people, particularly people outside of their organization. And why I think freemium really works well for Calendly is that they have a massive addressable market. And there's tons and tons of use cases. So if you're a salesperson and you want to schedule demos or schedule meetings with your prospects, Calendly is a great opportunity for that, to get reduce friction in that meeting scheduling process. If you're a recruiter and you want to schedule candidate interviews, or if you're just a busy entrepreneur and you can't afford having your own executive assistant, Calendly is great for millions and millions of potential people. And so that's why it's great to offer as a freemium version. You can also tell here that it's robust enough to have a clear rationale to upgrade, right? So if you want some basic scheduling for free, you can certainly do that with Calendly with unlimited events, but only one event type at a time. And so if you want to have more event types, if you want to remove Calendly branding, especially for more sales use cases to look more professional, if you want to start using Calendly across your whole team, maybe for round robin or collective scheduling, or if you want to get paid through Calendly, they have a payments functionality. There's a lot of additional functionality that they have to monetize their freemium users and convince them to eventually pay. And then finally, there's a virality element. I think this is really important for a lot of freemium businesses as well, and that the free product actually drives lead gen through Calendly. So as you're scheduling, you're scheduling with someone else, and they get invited into Calendly, see the product, see how great of an experience it is. Oh, and it's so easy for them to create their own Calendly account themselves. So even the free leads actually have a lot of value for Calendly because they bring more users into the platform. And so, that's great for Calendly. They've got this virality component. They meet all the freemium checkboxes. Are you maybe thinking, freemium isn't quite right for me, but I still want to take advantage of these benefits to have rapid growth? Well, you can get creative. I think a great example of this is actually with HubSpot. And so HubSpot now does have freemium products, but back in the day, they didn't. But they offered some free products that drove value for the users without giving away their core product. And this is through the website grader, where you would get, a score on how your website is doing across, the performance, mobile, SEO, security, and you could get comparison with competitors as well. And so this was a great free tool that people could use to assess how they're doing with online marketing, and that it would naturally lead into, oh, do you want to improve your website score? You can use HubSpot for that. So HubSpot was able to get tons and tons of great lead generation without giving away their core product. In fact, they have now graded over 4 million websites, and they've launched a marketing grader that analyzes more than just your website now. They have, a broader marketing grader functionality to go way beyond just websites. And so your other opportunity to use pricing to reduce friction in this process, get more users into the funnel, is a bottoms-up sale. And your pricing can actually help you become a bottoms-up machine. And this is what makes that product-led growth flywheel spin. Because you want your pricing to land new users who have expansion paths, either by getting other new users into the platform, or to spend more and more with you over time. And this is, bottoms up is hopefully a self-service product that individual users can go purchase on their own. They don't need budget approval. They don't need procurement approval. They don't need to get, dozens of people on board with it. They can just start up. It's kind of shadow IT, start using the product, start seeing value, and then they'll want to convert to a larger and larger deal later on. And the rationale is that you are able to build champions who sell your product internally. So they do the work of selling your product to more and more people in their organization and spreading sort of organically within that larger enterprise. It's also paid lead generation. So you're getting paid from this company and you're generating a lead that's going to get you more prospects in that account. And then finally, it's a much faster sales process. It allows you to land these customers, get them to use the product, and get them to see value without having procurement or IT. So it really speeds up the process. A great example in the OpenView portfolio is Expensify. And Expensify, many of you probably know them. They're a mobile-first expense reporting application. And their founder and CEO, David Barrett, explains the model really, really well. He says, individual employees download the mobile app for free and can start using it. They then promote it internally to the decision maker, and the decision maker reaches out to us, basically already sold by their employees. And then we have order takers on our side to help them get to the buying process. So Expensify doesn't have real salespeople. They rely on the individuals who say, enough with expense reports. I hate these expense reports. I need a new solution. They go on Google or on the App Store, and they find Expensify, they start using it, get really hooked on it, and start telling everyone else at their company they need to start using Expensify. And then the finance people, the people that are approving expenses, they get additional benefits once they bring the whole company on board. It's a really great model. Another good example is Yesware. And what Yesware does is they focus on individual sales reps. So Yesware is a sales productivity tool. And you can see with their blogs, their content, they get a ton of readers. You hear like 14 game-changing out-of-office examples to copy right now. They had more than 2 million reads on that article. Or how to write a damn good email signature. 2.6 million people read that. And so their blog gets all of this traffic from these individual sales reps. And they want a way to monetize those reps, get those reps using the product, and then ultimately bring on more users within those accounts, because those individual reps are successful, they start crushing their quota, and all of a sudden they tell all their friends about Yesware and all the great things it's doing for them. And final example is another OpenView portfolio company, actually. It's called Pipify. And Pipify is a business process software company. And what they allow for is for anyone that has any sort of business process to get started really easily to make their process a lot more smooth and automated. And then what happens is processes tend to involve multiple functions or multiple people in a function. And you start finding more and more processes that you want to automate with Pipify. And once you've used the product once, seen all of the time that it saves you, see all the benefits that it brings the organization, you naturally are going to want to bring on more and more processes. This means more and more users interacting with Pipify. This means wanting more and more advanced features. And so Pipify has been able to close extremely large six-figure deals that have started with these individual one-off processes that are using Pipify. So the bottoms-up sales process is great. It's not free necessarily, but it's a way to start getting someone to pay a nominal amount and use the product through self-service before eventually being able to close a lot bigger deal within that company. And so what now? What should you take away, really specifically from this talk? I think first off is don't be afraid to experiment with different ways that freemium free products or bottoms-up products can look for your business. Todd Jackson, the former VP of product at Dropbox, talked at our Product-Led Growth Summit in San Francisco, and he said experimentation is a huge part of our growth infrastructure. Back in 2012, they were running 2 to 3 experiments per month. Now they're doing 80 experiments per month. They're constantly running these, and these are driving more than 100 million in incremental revenue every year. And pricing is something that they definitely experiment with, both on-site and through offline research. And pricing changes and running pricing tests has a pretty dramatic impact on ARR growth. So this is, again, from our SaaS benchmark survey. We asked companies, did you change pricing or not? If they had changed it, what impact did it have on your ARR growth? And only 2% of companies said that it decreased their ARR growth. So in other words, 98% of the time, pricing changes are going to be neutral or have a positive impact on your growth. I don't know how many tests you can run that are, neutral or positive 98% of the time. But 40% of the time, pricing changes positively increase ARR by more than 25%. So there's a ton of revenue opportunity to unlock with pricing changes from both your top line and the bottom line. I hope you have walked out of this lesson with several ideas for tests that you can run to increase that product-led growth flywheel, and with the confidence to start trying new pricing changes in the new year. All right, thanks everyone. You can reach me at either on Twitter at OpenViewVenture or at Poyar K. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn as well. I'm Kyle Poyar, and take care.